While load shedding might be getting worse and worse and darkening our lives in this trying time, but don't worry guys, Kowser is here to brighten up everyone's day with some more of the Power Up Cup. My name is Sun Phoenix and I'm joined once again by Blur. And Blur, this will be our final, not our final, but our final match of, I think, of the Power Up Cup here. And at the end of it all, it is a Swiss tournament, so the winner of this one will be taking home our 5,000 Rand grand prize for the Power Up Cup. It's going to be a stellar match today with the Beasty Boys, a name you're all very familiar with in the South African scene, taking on the Inglorious Blasters, a name you're not familiar with, but when we get into some of the players, you'll immediately understand why we're so excited to bring you this game. Blur, how are you feeling going into this one this evening?
We love a top of the table clash, don't we? I mean, it's just the last two undefeated teams in this tournament coming up against each other. Winner of this wins everything for this tournament, and I mean, you know, it is a Swiss style tournament, so you know we're not going into a bracket stage. It's definitely really exciting to see, you know, what the best of South African Overwatch is to show today.
Yeah, this is the tippy top here, and when we get into the names on these teams, you'll see immediately why we think that, and it should be a stellar matchup. Now, it's worth noting as well that the second place, or rather the loser here for this matchup this evening, their position is not decided, so there is 2,000 Rand up for grabs for the second place team. That's going to be decided based on how the third place team performs in their match. Either today or tomorrow. So we won't quite know who second and third is to round out our podium and prize paying positions yet, but by the end of today we will know who P1 is, so that's going to be very exciting. Do we want to just run through these two rosters quickly, Blur, and we'll get a sense of what we're working with here?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I mean, first up we have the very experienced roster of the Beastie Boys coming through. I mean, we've seen players in this team be excellent in multiple different roles for years. Like, so on the side of the Beastie Boys coming out on tank, we have Shapeshifter. Clearly one of the standouts performers in where we have seen them so far. If not necessarily because of the absolute cleanliness of the gameplay, it's the absolute impact we see of the player coming out. I mean, he's been a tremendous player. He was on ATK back in the day, and I mean, took a big break from Overwatch, and now we see him back here.
Yeah, way back in the day, right? 2018, 2019.
Yeah,
when you
really,
were winning championships with Goliath Gaming, he was coming second with.
It was my opposite number. Yeah.
That's a blast from the past.
Yeah, right. And then, you know, coming out on the DPS line, we have so many just great players coming through there. You've got Trizzle and Nyan, winners last year in the Buffalo Cup with Beastie Boys again. Tremendous players, both in their own rights, and I mean, clearly come a long way from when they were on, you know, Team Mist and JHM, to the point where they're probably like two of the foremost DPS in the country at the moment. And obviously, then on top of that, you have like Luke floating around there, who, I mean, just hit GM again. You know, that's the type of player you can never count out. You know, multiple time league winner as well.
Guys just popping into GM for a spell.
Yeah, and just, you know, comes back, pops into GM. We wish. But you know, he's obviously been tremendously impactful throughout his time as an Overwatch player, being such a the talisman for energy esports, and such a tremendous player as well for 2CP and ATK as well. On multiple different roles as well. Like, it's just a player you can never count out, because he just has so much potential, just bursting from the seams. And then, you know, looking at the support line there, you have, you know, Wallace, who's obviously tremendously just experienced within his role as a main support at this level. You know, we've seen him be very impactful in the past. We've seen him be tremendously valuable to teams, both like in Beastie Boys itself, and, you know, previously Vendetta, Evo, 2CP. Like, he's been a mainstay that's come into those teams, made an impact, been a very, very productive player in that space. And, you know, today obviously we're looking at him to be kind of like consistent in that role again. And then lastly, in that roster, you have Squishy, again, just a tremendous player. Great on DPS, great on supports, you know, but he's going to be lining up on the flex support tonight. We've seen him on that Ana, we've seen him on that BAP do so much damage, be such an impact on the game. And it'll be great to see how he comes out today.
Yeah, he's been rocking that flex support for at least a year now, competitively, I think. So he's got now some experience. Of course, we knew him in the past, as you mentioned, as a super DPS on that same ATK squad as Shapeshifter in the past. So that is an exciting lineup coming out of the Beastie Boys. And then we take a look across the river, I guess, at the Inglorious Blasters. It will be Nick, aka Unreal Nick, aka Quick Fan, formerly of Team as an off tank, if memory serves. Or Team Gaming, sorry. I mean, can you blame me?
Team's much older than that.
Name. Yeah, so that's Unreal Nick. More, I would say I think of him as a diva specialist in the past, but he'll be on that main tank role. Of course, his role having been deleted from the game. I'm not salty, don't worry about it. Diablo and Condi will be the DPS players for this roster. Now, that is an absolutely terrifying little DPS lineup. On Diablo, we know through and through, we've seen him on OG in the past alongside the likes of Zwoom. He's just a terrifying DPS to go up against. Also recently back in GM, or he peaked in his SR or something. I can't keep track of these players.
Top 500 at the moment, actually.
Sorry, wow, dude, okay, just relax, everybody. Top 500. Then we've got Atsu, a player I'm not familiar with, on the support role, alongside Apricornicus, who's been with the team a little while now. Coming up from a sort of mid-level team in the past, but has spent the last, I want to say at least year on this beast. He was on the Beastie Boys squad before, right?
He was on Kintsugi before this. OG
Okay,
Kintsugi.
Sorry, yes.
And I think he was on the Team Gaming roster as well for it.
Okay, so a lot of sort of intermingling here from various different teams, but you look at this Inglorious Blasters team, that's going to happen a lot, and you zone in on those GPS players. Like, seriously, that's going to be the core of the squad. If they can excel, this Inglorious Blasters team is going to be very, very scary.
Absolutely. I mean, we've also seen, they've been very fluid in terms of switching players out and putting. I mean, Zwoom is on this roster and not in for the first game tonight, and Sterling as well on this roster. So they're a very stacked team. Lots of very, very good players there. Just, you block one angle, the other one is just as ready to hurt you,
That's terrifying. Oh my god.
And I mean, we've also seen a player like Nick come into his own in this environment. We've seen him be very, very impactful on Wrecking Ball specifically in previous games as well. And we know he has range on heroes like Xayah, heroes like Diva, heroes that were traditionally in his role, but now are kind of just solo tanks. So, very impactful, like lots of very impactful players, lots of names that you can see that are going to be very strong to begin with. So definitely great to see how these two are going to just punch it out.
There's always a chance that one team just totally has the number of the other here, but I think this is a game where we can expect the quality of these players means their adaptability is a significant part of how this match is going to play out. So one team comes out swinging, takes a quick map one. The second team has got all the sort of tools to come back and put up a good fight. So I'm not expecting a clean sweep here, not by any means. But we are waiting just to cue you in here. Some people are coming off from load shedding now at 8 o'clock, so we're just waiting for them to filter in to the lobby here. But I'm expecting. What are you expecting, Blair? Looking at these two rosters, looking at their results and their relative strength of the two teams, who are you expecting to come out on top today?
I think it's going to be an absolute just punch fest. I think it's going to be two great DPS lines just going back and forward at each other, seeing what sticks. I think it's functionally, you're looking at these teams, it's just going to be the highest quality level of Overwatch that South Africa has to offer. But I think reasonably it comes down to, you're looking at on Diablo in top 500, Condi, who's, played at nearly the highest level of Overwatch. You're looking at that and thinking, that's scary, but you're also looking at the other side, looking at Trizzle, a league winner in his own right, like Luke, top 500 peaking DPS as well, and kind of seemingly coming back into his own. So there's a lot of moving parts here.
Yeah.
That we're seeing gonna kind of intermingle and see if they're able to come out on top of each other here. But it's definitely just it's gonna be just a game of small margins, I think, and the team that kind of gets that nick on the enemy team, gets that excusing the pun, gets that little bit ahead of the enemy team, I think will have to try and leverage that and really push it as hard as they can to get themselves ahead.
Yeah, I think individually this is absolutely the highest skill existing in South Africa today. For the DPS signs alone, there's just so much talent there. It's worth noting as well that you mentioned it earlier that Zwoom is on this roster. So for me, it's very interesting that they start with Nick here. You know, no disrespect to Nick, but Zwoom is like literally the best main tank or tank in the country and has been for quite some time now. So the fact that Inglorious Blasters has the faith to put Nick in here and say, you're better on this map, or you're offering what we want on this map, and we're very, putting that faith in him is very interesting for me to see. So that's going to be someone we're going to be keeping an eye out here on Oasis, our first map. Unreal Nick, or Quake fan as he is in game, if he can pop off here, that's going to be a really positive sign, because when Zwoom comes in, we will be expecting Zwoom to come in later on, just FYI. You'd expect this team to get better. So if they can start off strong here on Oasis, they're going to be sitting pretty moving into Midtown and Dorado.
Yeah. I mean, you're looking at the squads as well. We are seeing some Beasty Boys on Sureness at the moment. They're not sure whether they're playing Metal Snow or Wallace. It seems that they've confirmed Wallace. But I mean, Metal Snow, another player from that old Team Mist Gaming roster that went on to do great things. I mean, he's currently sitting in GM1. Like,
everyone's in GM, bro. What's going on?
It's almost as if the best players all want to be on the same teams together. Who would have thought?
Yeah, fair enough. Got me there, Blair. You got me there. Saying maybe I should stop playing Overwatch again now. I'm in GM as well.
Yeah, just hit that GM, get that GM grind going.
It seems like everybody's getting GM. They're just handing GM up, bro.
But it is also worth noting. These are
very difficult to get into GM. These are very, very talented players. It goes without saying. So. Yeah, we're still waiting for one or two players. As you said, Beastie Boys kind of umming and ahhing over Metal Snow and Wallace. Again, another one where you'd think Wallace is on paper the more favored of those two players, but there's more to Overwatch than just which player is better on paper. So I'm excited to see here. That's a dynamic we're going to have to keep an eye on here. I think the substitutions, we're expecting Inglorious Blasters to make a lot of substitutions. In fact, we know what the substitutions are going to be, and we'll share those as they come up.
I mean, you say that, but we're getting a Zwoom on support now.
I don't believe you for 1 second, but
we're getting a Zwoom on support.
That might be.
Oh no, he's going DPS.
Right?
He's going DPS. No. I think Condi is going support, Zwoom's going DPS.
Oh my god, what is happening, guys? Well, thankfully it's 5, so game 1 is not the end of the series. But we are expecting a lot of changes throughout the series in terms of personnel. Beastie Boys has 9 players on their roster, so they've got a lot of room to mix and match things.
Yeah, I mean, it's looking, even with that, Zwoom is still, a High Masters DPS, Condi's a GM support. Metal Snow coming in for Wallace, the GM support. It's not like the quality level drops. It just might be a little bit of a different game.
Sure, that is fair. We are now finally, guys, ready to jump into our first map, and it will be Oasis at midday, which feels weird and gross, but here we are. So what are we expecting to see out of these teams? What's kind of the hotness in the meta right now, Blur?
I mean, there's a couple of things floating around at the moment. The compositions that we've been seeing at pro level have been very dynamic. Mm-hmm. We've seen some Ryan, we've seen some Bull, we've seen some Diva, some Winston. So it could be, it's honestly going to be what these teams feel a little bit more comfortable on. And I mean, we've seen Shapeshifter be very impactful on that Reinhardt in previous games, and it seems like he's going to be locking it in again. Like Luke, locking one of his regrettably famous picks on that Symmetra. An absolute monster on that Symmetra, able to just melt through players, but it's a little bit difficult to make that call too early because it's, kind of leaning on the echo. We're seeing some Junker Queen coming out from the side of the Inglorious Blasters. And the Sojourn, always an impactful pick. The Torbjorn. We love a Torbjorn, but
yeah.
This might have more to do with Zwoom being an emergency sub than actually what they intended to play.
Yeah, this might be a response to some extenuating circumstances here as the two teams now move towards each other, start to clash. Trizzle, he's going to open things up here for the Beastie Boys. That first kill onto Condi, a critical pick. onto the enemy DPS. It's Torb versus Torb here. We know like a Luke loves a Torb as well, and he'll be happy to match Zoom up on that. And it's going to be the Beastie Boys here with the more, slightly more conventional composition, I'd have to say. And they're going to start it off capping some point here. Oh my god.
We're looking at this type of map, of course, and it's obviously he's got these really nice claustrophobic chokes, and that's where a Reinhardt's really going to shine, especially against something like a Junker Queen, which really wants to push into your team. Reinhardt can be such an impactful hero, and obviously having just got the big buffs that he got recently, you know, we're obviously looking at Reinhardt to be a lot more impactful. And yeah, obviously just the Beastie Boys are able to take a lot more early control, and that's allowed their DPS to really perform the early fights.
Yeah, here all tanks are going to be very comfortable on as well. Here's Quick Fan looks to get aggressive here on the Junker Queen. 72% towards the ultimate now, so that could be a consideration. But once again, an early pick, an aggressive player from Shapeshifter. He gets the charge onto the Junker Queen, but he will pay with his life now. So even fight so far, but kills going in both directions. A very scrappy fight here as Atsu and the rest of the Inglorious Blasters look to get set up on point. Metal Snow getting pick off the pick here. Doing great work on the Kiriko. He finds another here. Just going to be helping his team clean up the point here, and the Beastie Boys will remain in control.
Metal Snow absolutely putting on a clinic on that Kiriko right now. Obviously, her headshot multiplier, a very impactful part of her kit, but you don't expect your Kiriko to be pulling out kills like that every fight, and it's just brought his team back to that fight and kept them in control of the point.
Yeah, we spoke about Squishy being a monster, but Squishy's actually on the main support here, or at least on the Lucio for the time being, as Luke, he will once again get the better of the Torb engagement here. No hammer kill just yet, as the teams look set to keep poking at each other on the front line here, but struggling to find a way in here on the Inglorious Blasters. They do now have Carnage or Rampage or whatever the series ultimate is called, and here we go, Kiriko Rush. Forced out here, getting aggressive with the Molten Core coming out as well, zoning them back, and 2 kills already for the Beastie Boys. Shapeshifter still has the hammer down ready to go, but he's not even going to bother using it here. They do commit the tack visor, but it's not even necessary as they secure the point here. Beastie Boys looking untouchable so far.
Yeah, wow, just absolutely in control of that first point there, making full use of that really tight space on the entry to point to really stop them from getting in. I was surprised to see them stick on that Junker Queen for so long, considering, you know, how absolutely shut out they seem to be getting by the Reinhardt in that situation. And immediately they look like they're switching it up. We're seeing them floating a ball right now. But I actually think they might match the Reinhardt if you look at the rest of this comp. May, Sojourn, Baptiste. It's just, you know, it's looking like a brawl out here. May obviously very traditional, and I think that's going to be the differentiating factor in this round. Can they get those valuable walls out?
Yeah, that is going to be key here. Shapey was playing a very, very considered Ryan. He wasn't really putting himself out of position other than the occasional aggressive charge, but the May might make it hard for him to get a lot of value out of the Reinhardt here, or at least he's going to have to watch his positioning as they get set up on the high ground here, the Beastie Boys. You kind of feel happy being on the high ground here, sort of looking down into the choke.
I think especially considering you have that Soldier and that Torbjorn, who have a little bit more potential for that long-range damage than the May, you're going to be quite happy with this. But Antiablo already looking for those angles, looking to get behind that shield, looking to see if he can get a pick there. Going to be very, very valuable in this fight.
Yeah, Trizzle doing the same on the other side, of course. As they kind of neither team really wants to get out of position, but there we go. They will find the first pick here. Finally, Inglorious Blasters going to open up their account in a positive way here. Shapey dropping down under pressure, but Kiriko backing him up with the Suzu, but he will get taken down, and so will Metal Snow 2 follow. So Inglorious Blasters finally finding some sort of rhythm here.
Yeah, I mean, if you said in the first round that Beastie Boys have been playing the more traditional comp, in the second round, this is a classic rush comp. You know, this is the Ryan v Ryan you expect to be seeing. You expect to be seeing both teams mirroring this type of composition.
Oh, what a shot.
Immediately, I talk about the long-range damage, but Zwoom absolutely proving me wrong with those icicles.
Yeah, those icicles still hurt, no matter how far away you are. Zwoom, he will open the account here for the Inglorious Blaster. Once again,
big nade.
Over the top, Quick fan dropping early, and that might be exactly what they need to push through. The Blizzard will come out here. They're going to still get picks here. Inglorious Blaster, in spite of losing their tank so early, they'll manage to find the openings and get the picks. A lot of headshots coming out from the 2 DPS, and that's going to be enough to force Inglorious Blasters through.
And you have to say, although, you know, Beastie Boys were able to open up that fight well, that Blizzard from Zoom there really kind of secured that for his team. And Shapeshifter maybe just getting a little bit aggressive, getting a little bit separated from his team there.
Yeah, once again getting picked off there, the window making short work of the blue Reinhardt here. Another big anti-heal from Metal Snow, but it's too little too late here as the Inglorious Blast is kind of standing firm here. This is a much better rhythm from them with the Reinhardt than you get the sense they felt with the Junker Queen.
Yeah, definitely. And I think it's also just the flow of the comp in general. Ooh, that was very sneaky to try and get over the shield there, but seemingly not quite landing in the way you would want it to. But yeah, lots and lots of ults coming out from the Beastie Boys here.
Yeah, absolutely. Here, Molten Core popped, Shapeshifter swinging his hammer. Everything looks like a nail to this man, and he's going to clean up the Inglorious Blasters now. And finally, the Beastie Boys will get set up on point. But you're pretty happy with that as IB.
Yeah, I think so. Big 86% push, so probably 1-5 territory, and you've got most of the ultimates out of the side of the Beastie Boys. Is a neutral fight for now for them though, as Woom needs to build up his ultimates for them to get that online, but still, really strong situation for them to be in 1-5 territory.
Yeah, from this angle you can see how powerful that Maywall is, cutting off a lot of the damage through. High Noon popped here, Deadeye looking to do the damage. Is he going to find it? Nice slamp there. Going to be keeping Zoom alive, or rather, yeah, for a little bit, but he does end up going down, as we can see here. See if they get aggressive here. A hammer down.
We love a shadow.
Onto the Reinhardt. He will take down his opposite number here. Will shapeshifter. And that's going to help the Beastie Boys clean things up here. A nice leap onto Condi. Will call for a late pick. So a nice hold here for the Beastie Boys. This is exactly what they need to come back into this.
And they're cycling their ults very nicely as well. They play the opening stage of this fight well enough. Luke will probably have his Molten Core online, and they have the Nano online as well. But they are playing into that window and that Blizzard again, which can be so impactful. So immediately, wow, that's a lot of damage going through there.
That's a one-shot, I think, with through the window with the Fire Strike onto the Lucio. And now they get aggressive here. They just need that one opening, the chink in the armor, and they will twist the knife and push on forward. 87% on the clock here for the Inglorious Bosses. That they look to even things up on Oasis.
Yeah, they're going to have to try and get a last second touch here, but I'm not even sure if they'll be able to do that. Like Luke in the bottom.
That looked like it could have been absolutely disastrous for the Inglorious Bastards, but like Luke didn't have quite the HP to get up. It is 99%. They do get the recap here, but they're down in the first thing, so even though. Oh yeah, big anti here over the top as quick and kind of force him to the corner here. Not a ton of healing backing him up here. Just the Lucio for the moment. And they're going to have to relocate here. This is a pretty bad situation now for Inglorious Blasters. They kind of split up. And the reinforcements are not going to really have an easy time grouping up with them.
Interesting pick from Condi here, going onto the Kiriko. He'll be able to jump through the wall to his team here and group up for the rest of the fight.
Yeah, that's a very good point here. The Shadow Step, but Metal Snow will drop. The Great Wall going to be keeping the team healthy, or rather preventing them from getting on top of that Ana. But Inglorious Blast is in a bit of trouble. You can see the HP differential here. So tanks in the corners, opposite corners on the wrong side of the map here. Shapeshifter will drop first, but it doesn't matter as the Beastie Boys find 3 quick picks here. And looks like they're going to be taking Oasis here overtime. Ticking down, the touch will come through from the Kiriko of Condi, but he's going to be taken down. The turret in the corner, pinking him down, and that's going to be that. The Beastie Boys going to secure map 1.
Beastie Boys giving us a workshop in resilience in this map. You know, they looked like they were falling a little bit behind, like the momentum of the game was shifting, but just as it looked like that was happening, they come out with some hero plays, they stabilize their fights, and they hold for a very, very long time there to just shift what was an 86-0 to, you know, 100 in their favor.
Yeah, just some critical picks at critical times there for the Inglorious, or sorry, for the Beastie Boys, kind of helped them just punch their way through that team fight. It was a very scrappy game, it has to be said. I think Blur, especially that second map, a lot of unorthodox picks, or at least one, you know, Torb, not really something we're seeing at any level of the game, competitively speaking, of course. But like a Luke, if anybody can make it work, it will be him or Mito, or, you know, one of those kind of players who can bring it out and just dominate with it. So ultimately, I think what we can take away from that one, Blur, is that the Beastie Boys are looking a little bit more put together to start off today.
I also think the Torb is an interesting adaptation. On Diablo, specifically on the side of... I mean, actually, both on Diablo and Condi on the side of Inglorious Blasters.
Yeah, true.
Both very, very well known for their Tracer play. And Torbjorn a natural counter to Tracer because of his ability to just shut down flanks. So, you know, I think it is an interesting adaptation. I don't think it's just Luke picking Torb for being Luke. It could be. I could be wrong.
Yeah, I suppose if we
stranger things have happened.
Yeah, we haven't seen the previous games as well. It's hard to kind of say what's an adaptation versus what is just what they're doing.
Yeah, I mean, definitely, you're looking at this and you're seeing, they adapted very well. They played as a unit extremely well to bring the game back into their favor in that first map. And I mean, they used their abilities and their ultimates extremely well. I talked about Luke's Molten Core being something that's potentially swinging a fight, and although the second one was a little bit interesting at the bottom of the map there, the first one was super valuable in actually swinging that fight back into their favor. It gave them the momentum to get back onto points, and that was what was important.
Yeah.
It looks like we're getting a sub. We're getting Sterling, renowned hitscan DPS Sterling, in for Quick fan Nick, and Zwoom will be going on to tank. So.
That's a change we were expecting to see, right? We weren't expecting to see Zwoom on the first map, but I guess they had some issues and he had to kind of fill in on DPS. But now him coming in onto that main tank or tank role, this is something we expect. So like we alluded to at the beginning of the broadcast, we would expect this team to take a step up with Zwoom on main tank. Again, to reiterate, no disrespect to Nick, it's all respect to Zwoom and what he can do on this hero, alongside on Diablo as well. A sort of pairing that has had, endless success in the South African scene, a terrifying squad to play up against. And then bringing in Sterling as a kind of to prop those two up. That is terrifying. If you don't know, if you haven't been watching competitive Overwatch South Africa in a while, one of the best Widowmakers, a scary Tracer, a scary Pharah. He can play so many different DPS. A super aim guy, I like to call them, where you can just be like, this dude's just gonna hit shots. Like, it's the kind of player you want on your team. And Aquatic, or Sterling as he now goes by, is a terrifying player when it comes to that aspect. So I think that, and I don't know if you agree with me, Pierre, but I think things have kind of leveled up here now, based on the personnel at least, for the Inglorious Blasters.
Yeah, I mean, again, I don't think Nick played badly in that first map at all. I actually think he was one of the top performers on that Inglorious Blasters team in that map. But it's hard to argue with putting a tank like Zwoom in. You know, it's hard to argue. He's one of the best around, and he's proved it time and time again. So we'll definitely see it. From back when he was in Kintsugi to now, he's always just been such an impactful, such a meaningful player in the games that he's played. So
yeah, I
think, it's one of those things that you just can't see. You can't see a situation where he's not the strongest available for our country.
Yeah.
In our country rather.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we are still just waiting for Sterling to get into the lobby. As we expect, load shedding wreaks havoc on everyone. So
yeah, unfortunately. Thankfully, we've downgraded to stage 5, to stage 5, which is like cool and all. But
only 1 4-hour slot a day now.
Yes, dream, guys, first world country again. So yeah, it kind of, we called it the Power Up Cup for a reason, guys, trying to brighten up our days here, kind of inject a bit of levity into what can be a very dark time, literally and figuratively, of course. But it is going to be Midtown now, one of the maps that was introduced when Overwatch 2 was released. So a new map, in relative terms when compared to some of the others here. But it is a hybrid map. So one of those maps where you can kind of get gummed up on that first point if you can't pierce through the enemy's defense.
Definitely. Midtown especially, you've got like 2 very, very narrow chokes that you have to try and push through to get control of the map. And a lot of what we see on Midtown is teams kind of rotating to flip the attack and defense sides, to just try and get away from those chokes. So they'll spend a lot, I think we'll see a lot of, if the first initial pushes don't work, I think we'll see a lot of rotating and posturing to get into position there. It is worth noting it's one of the new maps, and what we've seen from Beasty Boys in the past is we've seen them struggle on the new. We've seen them not be entirely comfortable. We saw them on Shambali Monastery against Typo, I believe it was, and they were really, really struggling to find the space on that map, find the way to kind of engage that map. And Midtown, another one of those ones. We've never seen this one in Overwatch 1. We've never seen this with 6v6. And, we hope that the players have been playing a little bit more and prepping for this game. It could be a situation where map knowledge just simply, becomes the difference. Especially with players like Swoom, Auntie, and Condi, whose time in this game rivals the time at my job. It's a big commitment for them. So you know that they're going to know exactly what they're trying to pull up on this map.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that could end up playing a significant part here. And you mentioned that typo match with Beasty Boys. A lot of the players were like, I've literally never played this map before. So
yeah, I mean, it was literally this was the first time for 3 of them.
Exactly. Fingers crossed that they've spent some time engaging with this map. And this map's been in the game a lot longer than Shambhala Monastery has, but still a fairly new map.
Yeah, new to Overwatch 2. It came out, I believe, in the first beta. It was when we first got sights of it. So, it's definitely a map that's been around, but it's been around in Overwatch 2. If you've gone away and played another game for a couple of years and come back to Overwatch, you're going to be a little bit behind. It's just one of those things.
For something new here. Now, I think a key for me on Oasis, or something that emerged, was seeing what the compositions look like, or seeing the compositions these teams are comfortable running, and was kind of centered around the Reinhardt play. Now, you mentioned some of the buffs that Ryan got fairly recently. Are we expecting him to just kind of be the center of this whole match this evening, or is there a lot of room for more dynamic compositions, let's say?
I mean, we could definitely see more dynamic compositions being played than just the Ryan. And I think, while a control map, which is traditionally extremely, rotation and engagement heavy, might see a lot of Ryan just for his ability to get onto point and be a presence. A map like this, where you don't always have to be on point, we might see some Wrecking Ball coming out. We might see some Winston coming out. Swoom, obviously renowned for his excellent Winston.
Yeah.
And that could be what we see kind of coming out of them here, especially because we haven't seen a tendency to avoid the Kiriko and the Lucio, which has been quite prominent with these Winston style compositions in Overwatch 2.
Yeah, Kiriko been pretty much standard. That Kiriko Lucio comp, from what the matches we've been seeing, it seems like that's all the teams want to be running at the moment.
I mean, it's just Kiriko is one of the supports that has the least reliance on everyone else to survive. She's so mobile and, I mean, so dangerous in her own right. We saw Metal Snow pulling out the headshot after headshot in that previous map, and we're kind of hoping to see more in this in this map.
Yeah.
Obviously, it depends what they come out with. I'd be surprised to see Beastie Boys shifting off that Ryan style composition. But they seem very, very well drilled and very comfortable.
Yes, I agree. I think, of course, if you're Beastie Boys here, you don't really need to change much up here. The onus is now on Inglorious Blasters to bring something different, being a map down, and kind of it definitely wasn't a dominant performance from the Beastie Boys, but they definitely do come away from that first map looking a little bit a step above the Inglorious Blasters. Sterling now has finally joined the lobby. Condi saying that Sterling was measuring his setup and making sure all his keyboard and mouse were at the correct angle, which I thought was quite funny. But that's the kind of player Sterling is, jokes aside. He's not, I assume he's not literally doing that, but he's the kind of player who focuses on the kind of granular parts of his mechanics and grinds a lot of aim labs. And onto as well.
He definitely writes. He plays a lot of aim trainers,
Exactly. And plays a lot of other FPS games like Apex and that sort of thing. So he's the kind of player who will expect to be a mechanical dominator.
Yeah, I mean, definitely. That's exactly what we're expecting. We're seeing an immediate tendency off the more flex support pick of the May. We're seeing him kind of line up this Cassidy. Cassidy, obviously, extremely renowned for his presence as an aim intensive hero. As we expected from the side of Beastie Boys, no changes. Only change actually being Squishy, who seems to be coming out on the Brigitte. Brigitte also the recipient of some recent buffs, and they must be expecting that they're going to be coming under some dive pressure, which, if that's what they're expecting, they're currently incorrect about it. So that's the only reason I can think you're playing both Torb and the Brigitte in this early stage. Maybe they think they just need the extra brawl potential up in the face of Swoom, but Yeah,
Yeah,
definitely interesting
they
to see how
could
we're
put a
starting this
lot of
game.
pressure on Zoom here with the Brig alongside Shapeshifter, but we have to wait and see how that works out for them, as the Inglorious Blasters will be on the attack to start things off here, and Luke just going to lose out on their Turbulent Tide, kind of the cost of doing business here, as a lot of damage coming through onto Zoom. He's playing quite aggressive here, shield down a lot of the time, and nice sleep on the side there. Trussell will pick off Sterling, so not an illustrious return to the competitive Overwatch scene here for Sterling. He will be the first to drop in this matchup. Shapeshifter, fearless here around the corner, pun absolutely intended, as they will now back up.
Yeah. Unfortunately, losing Squishy at the late stage of that fight, and we're seeing the Pharah immediately coming out from Sterling there. Must be thinking that there's a gap without the hit scan DPS on the side of Beastie Boys. There's a gap to kind of leverage this high spam hero and get value that way.
Yeah, one of the heroes Sterling is very known for, or at least was when he was playing consistently competitively. And a very quick Kiriko rush, Kitsune rush, sorry. And look at that, immediately they pounce forward, taking down two. Trussell still alive. And he uses up himself a big shadow here in the boulder, and that's going to be a huge turnaround. Oh, shadow going the other way though. The two Ryans brawling it out here. It's right about to back up from the Ryan itself. Shapeshifter, he'll get the better of that one. Zoot taken down, and Beastie Boys somehow, someway, they will just barely hold on.
Absolute hero play there coming out from Shapeshifter. The Kitsune rush came in from Condi so early in that fight. It didn't look like Beastie Boys were expecting it at all, and I mean, it just incited terror in their ranks. And Shapeshifter managing to take out 3 with that shadow, so impactful to win that fight for his team. Coming in now, Sterling onto the Echo now instead. It'll be interesting to see how this fight flows.
Sterling does not know what he wants to be on here, trying to find his angle here, but literally, and compositionally, the Shapeshifter set up nicely on the front line, a huge ult advantage here for the Beastie Boys. Shapeshifter did such a good job that he saved his team from having to use any ultimates here. They will use the rally now, but an immediate drop. Zoom taken down, but Trizzle dropping in the room now, but you'd much rather have your main tank here. So the Beastie Boys are now in the driver's seat. You can see the effect that has. Kiriko and a shadow step back to the squad here, in all likelihood, if she can. There we go. So nice work from Condi there, kind of testing the limits of the hero, but the Beastie Boys looking strong to start off.
Shapeshifter looking a lot more confident than we saw him in that Typo game. Looking a lot more kind of comfortable back in Overwatch, and back in Overwatch 2 specifically, where there's not so much off-tank presence. You know, looking extremely good in this matchup against Woom.
Oh, that's a good start though. Squishy taken down, Molten Core, Shadow coming out here, Inglorious Blasters finding the picks, but there we go. Shapeshifter finds one, Molten Core from Luke finds another, and now they can look to push forward here. The Beastie Boys, they bend, but they do not break, and they're gonna force Condi and the rest of the boys right back to spawn here. 60 seconds left, and the Beastie Boys looking unassailable so far.
Yeah, and a Molten Core, a very interesting response to a Kitsune rush there. You know, it can't stand in the Kitsune rush if it's full of lava, right?
Yeah, that's a fair point.
Yeah, I mean, it's just been such a clinic right now from Beastie Boys in terms of ult usage and ult management. You know, they still got this nano online for this, what would presumably last fight if they win it. And it's just not looking the same for the side of Inglorious Blasters. There's Shatter online, but Sterling yet to use an ultimate in this game, and it's just, there's nothing else online at the moment.
Kind of working his way towards a duplicate now. Overclock almost at the ready here. Trizzle though finds Sterling. It's a duplicate, not going to be forthcoming. At least not immediately. Zoom dropping so low, having to back up towards his team here. Will stay alive, but with only 12 seconds left on the clock, it's starting to look a bit dire here. The shadow comes through under the shield. No, not quite. And Zoom will drop earlier now. Shapeshifter can get aggressive with the nano boost here. The Beastie Boys just too good for the Inglorious Blasters on their defense here.
Just wow, what a performance coming out from the Beastie Boys. I wouldn't even say inherently that we're seeing Inglorious Blasters doing anything particularly wrong. Like, they're coming in, they're trying to take the engagements. Maybe they're getting a bit split, but like, they're coming in, they're taking these engagements, they're taking rotations, they're getting kind of purchase on point, and we've seen some big ults come out of them as well. But Beastie Boys, just again, an exercise in resilience. We're just seeing them absolutely dealing with everything that's Inglorious Blasters are able to throw at them. Game's not over yet, though. Inglorious Blasters, if they're able to hold this, will still be able to clutch out a draw. But just at this point, Beastie Boys looking so dominant.
Yeah, their core is looking insanely strong. You know, the two supports and Shapeshift on the Reinhardt, you know, just defending each other nicely, not really getting picked off. Shapeshifter playing a really solid Reinhardt here, not getting too aggressive, holding the corners nicely, and just kind of helping his team sort of bend to the pressure that the Inglorious Blasters put out. So I'm super impressed with Shapeshifter so far here from the Beastie Boys, but now looking at Inglorious Blasters, they will be bringing out a little bit of a different look here, Blur.
Yeah. Yeah, look, this is the Shapeshifter I remember. Very, very aggressive, very, very excellent on his mechanics and his timings, but Inglorious Blasters deciding to choose one of the more recently reworked heroes. We're seeing them come out on this Orisa. Orisa renowned for her ability to just stop the other tank playing the game. So I think that's what they're looking at. They're looking at Shapeshifter and like, we probably need to break this down to really get the value out of this roster we have lined up, and that must be what Zoom is looking to do here.
Oh, charge through here, dropping low, a lot of damage coming through, and Squishy will be the first to drop here. So Inglorious Blasters will find the opening pick, but Condi goes down, and that's kind of a bigger deal, but Shapey a little bit too far forward, but he's buying space for the team to get picks here, but we can immediately see the effect that the Orisa has on the game here. She's able to pump out some more damage and just kind of pressure the enemy main tank back. So a good start for Inglorious Blasters here.
Sterling continuing his trend of switching on death. He's on the Sombra now. Sombra, another recipient of recent buffs that we might see get some value here. Another hero renowned for making tanks' lives just absolutely unplayable. Yeah. Extending the fight here seems to be a very valuable tactic for Inglorious Blasters.
Oh, you immediately see the effect that the Sombra has. They're hacking the Reinhardt, removing that shield, and that allows the Orisa to put in so much damage. Wound dropping low here. It's going to need a bit of backup here from the healers, and will be healed up here fairly swiftly, but Aquatic seems a lot more comfortable on this hero, at least in the 2 seconds we've seen so far, as Auntie and the rest of the squad get aggressive here. Orisa dropping low, won't go down though. I think this Orisa pick was such a good decision from the Inglorious Blasters, Blur.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely, we're seeing it, just the value it's getting, stopping the aggression of the Beastie Boys here, giving the side of Inglorious Blasters just a little bit more space to exercise themselves, to see those DPS kind of get value. We're seeing on Diablo on that overclock already, where we got Trizzle only on 60%. So, it's just a lot more space that they're working with now.
Oh, there's a big ultimate from Orisa. They will find a pick onto the Lucio once again. EMP over the top, and that's going to help the rest of the Inglorious Blasters clean things up. Clean as you like, 5-0.
Very expensive, though. That was a full ultimate fight for the side of Inglorious Blasters. Only the beats potentially online for the side of Inglorious Blasters now, where we're coming in with that that molten core that we've talked so much about in this game so far, as well as this nano boost. It might be a fight that starts to tend back towards Beastie Boys in the sense that we've seen.
Ooh, very aggressive move here from the Inglorious Blasters. Boom, trying to find picks here alongside Aquatic and the rest of the squad here. Look how aggressive he's getting, but he does get slipped and taken down, so that might be everything that the Beastie Boys need to get aggressive here. Shapey will drop in the meanwhile, so if they can stall things out and allow the respawns to come through, Inglorious Blasters might be okay, but the overclock nano boost here from Trizzle helping him get pick after pick after pick, and just like that, it is all over for map number 2.
Yeah, I mean, that we're just seeing them just get a little bit ahead of themselves, I think. Just a little bit. They finally found that gap. They found that way that they could exploit Beastie Boys a little bit. It was a much closer round than we've seen previously in this game, and it's just unfortunate that they weren't able to hold that out for the rest of the time here. Very, very nicely played from the Beastie Boys there to punish that overextension there and open up the fights, eventually securing their win there, and that puts them at 2-0 up going into Dorado.
Yeah, you're feeling pretty good as the Beastie Boys here, because you've also looked quite comfortable, it has to be said. But I will say that defense from the Inglorious Blasters, they kind of found a better rhythm there with their composition at least. I think switching Zoom onto the Orisa, as you were alluding to, kind of gave them a lot more pressure onto the aggression coming out of the Beastie Boys. They kind of had to, the Beastie Boys kind of had to change up their approach to the team fights, and that worked for them. Sterling seems a bit uncomfortable in Overwatch 2, at least from the evidence of this Midtown map. He couldn't really find his hero, find his style. Once he got into the Sombra, he seemed a little bit more comfortable. He seemed to be able to contribute a bit more, but yeah, that was kind of a weak point, unfortunately, I think, for the Inglorious Blasters. But I think they may have found an angle here coming to Dorado that they can exploit, the Inglorious Blasters.
I would be surprised if they try that again on Dorado.
Okay, fair.
I'd be surprised, because Dorado, historically a very dive and ball-oriented map. It's
yeah, true.
Lots of space to play with, lots of very very oppressive high grounds. So, I mean, this would be the map for Zwim to bring out the Winston, for Sterling to bring out either the Pharaoh or the Widow, you know, Auntie to be on his classic Tracer pick, that type of thing.
Yeah.
You know, even if we see something like a Sojourn Ash or anything of that type of description, we're seeing players that can really come into their element on this map, play a different style, because these players have that potential. They have that strength, and I think where Midtown Point 1 may be a little bit of a hard point for Sterling to find his value in, but Dorado, ooh, you know, this is one of those maps that you built DPS highlight reels off.
Yeah, I guess that does make a lot of sense here. No changes for the Inglorious Blasters here. They're going to keep Sterling in, and they're going to keep Zwim on that main tank.
Yeah.
And then on the other side, again, no changes as well. So map number 3 here, it is do or die for the Inglorious Blasters. This is only a best of 5. This is technically a regular season match, but it's all in the line here. This map might be worth 3,000 gold doubloons here as below.
Yeah, definitely. And I think, I mean, immediately we're seeing Beastie Boys come out with the same style. They're on defense, so we're not going to get baited into their comp, but you know, we've got the Soldier, which we saw them experiment with a little bit on Oasis, but not really commit to. But a lot more high ground to leverage on this map to really exploit that pick. You know, you got the Torb classic pick, and with Auntie coming out on the Tracer, I think it's something that you're going to want to see. The rest of this comp is the same. If it's not broke, don't try and fix it. So they're thinking, you know, we're going to try and leverage this as much as we can, but it is a difficult map to do this on. Looks like Inglorious Blasters will be sticking to this ball style composition. A historic counter to Brawl, a historic counter to this rush, because nothing's going to get close enough for that Reinhardt to swing, and Reinhardt can only block one angle. This comp's going to want to be all around them.
Oh my gosh.
But as I say that, Trizzle sitting behind that shield, getting the resilience, and just absolutely just annihilating Sterling there.
Yeah, that is triple rocket.
Oh, Shapeshifter losing the high ground there.
To the face, yeah, it does get booped down, so might open things up here. Trizzle doing a really good job of pressuring this Pharaoh back. Something we saw Blackwatch struggle with, not Blackwatch, your team, what are they called? Ragnarok struggle
XVG,
with.
Yeah.
Against the Pharaoh. Trizzle's doing a great job of just peppering that Pharaoh, making it hard for Aquatic to find the angle. And put the pressure on, but good work from the Beastie Boys here, getting split up, but not getting taken down. Nobody really getting picked off here. As all asleep in the back, Zwim, and have to work his way around. Oh, God. That's giving somebody a headache, and finally Sterling finds that opening pick here. Trizzle does get taken down. Zwim, though, will get picked off in turn, and Trizzle, or Aquatic, though, he's kind of got the run of the game at the moment here, not really under any pressure with his counter being down in the form of Trizzle, so he can just kind of put the pressure on. He's spending a lot of time focusing on this Reinhardt though, not really doing much with the rockets for the time being, but they are down a tank, so kind of just forcing the card through while they wait for Swoon to rejoin. Oh, and
putting a lot of pressure onto Trizzle here, but Nano coming out to sustain him through that hard push onto him.
Aquatic getting super low down, going through the doorway on the ground, tracking down Squishy, tracking down Trizzle, and finally Sterling will get the picks his team needs. It's now just a Ryan on the front line with Luke going down, and it'll make short work of him. So finally, we might see Inglorious Blasters cap a first point here in the series.
And we're seeing a little bit of a stylistic switch here from the side of the Beastie Boys. They've decided to get off this Lucio, get off this Anna, and they're onto Baptiste Kiriko. So Baptiste, Squishy, renowned for playing Baptiste, is a hit scan DPS. So we're going to see him peppering into Sterling as well, making it really difficult for him to get pressure onto Trizzle in the same way that he was able to in that first point. But interesting to see them having to adapt here, having to adjust to a slightly different map style and put themselves in a position where maybe their composition isn't as kind of like unbreachable as they may have thought. Swoon dropping quite low here in the early stage.
Critical here onto Shapeshifter, who's playing quite far ahead of his team here. When it counter they really have to, the barrage would of course be the Soldier and no sleep anymore. So a lot of pressure being put on here. Attack Visor will get popped though. He does a quick 360 there, no scope. Oh, aggressive play from Sterling there. Trying to take down Trizzle with the barrage, but kind of orphans his mercy in the sky there. That's going to allow the Beastie Boys to kind of get set up. Swoon though still in the mix, and anytime you've got the best main tank in the country alive and doing damage, there's something that you can do, but not really sure what they can get down. Pulse Bomb comes out, doesn't find any kills, but it did get the stick off here, as it seems like Inglorious Boss is just kind of making space to force this card through and kind of sowing chaos in the ranks here.
Yeah, and it's just, you know, you look at this as well, Shapeshifter just looking a little bit lost right now. What do you do with any of your abilities in this fight? You know, you're just stuck in a position where you can't actually manufacture any space for your team here, and it's, you know, it's showing. The space that Swoom and the side of Inglorious Blasters are able to take around them is just absolutely oppressive to the side of Beastie Boys.
Yeah, this seems like a map difference here that kind of just, they found the perfect play style here. Drizzle will meet his end at the first of Diablo there. So many have before him, but 11 HP, looks at the ground, does get taken down. Will they get the cap here? 18 or 0.18 meters here to cap. 0.01, if they could just get it over the line here.
Man.
They get the close
Big shatter
going down. Big shatter, molten core as well. That's going to be that for this team fight. Not quite close enough, as close as you can get, Blur.
Yeah. 4 ults in there for Beastie Boys though, just enough to keep them onto second point. It's just, you know, I think we're seeing very much what we were discussing in the early stage of this game, is that, you know, we see Beastie Boys come out with a very clear identity, but maybe their flexibility a little bit in question in this game. You know, they're able to use 4 ults to secure that fight there, but, you know, Inglorious Blast is going to come right back at them, nearly at the pulse bomb, nearly at the barrage, and immediately Twizzle just being taken out in that fight. Squishy soon to follow, I'm sure. Wow, that's a lot of pressure into that back line.
On this hero. Nice charge back from Shapeshifter, but look how much space Zoom is creating here. If Shapeshifter's in the back swinging at the ball, the core is exposed, and when the core is exposed, the knife that is on Diablo will stab to the heart, and that will help them clean up this fight. The Beastie Boys routed here, forced back, second point capped, Inglorious Blasters. They found another gear here, Blur.
Yeah, and they need to be looking at an alternative to this. They're coming out now in the Junker Queen, who has been used a lot as a kind of like repellent to ball. You know, her ability to give her team some temporary HP, and also the impact of that knife in making sure ball isn't able to move as freely as he wants to, can be really, really impactful at opening up the fights for the side of Beastie Boys here. But we'll have to see how that pans out with, you know, Inglorious Blast is taking such great early space and putting in such good pressure, but Shapeshifter is holding out against that, putting a lot of damage back out.
Yeah, Sterling, sorry, drops quite quickly. We'll get raised up here by Atsu. His Mercy keeping him healthy here is now. Let's get aggressive. Swoom, doesn't quite get the pile driver on the high ground, but look at the damage coming through from Sterling into that choke, and now Swoom gets aggressive. He's found his target in the backline, won't get the pick, but the chaos is being sown here by the Inglorious Blasters. So much pressure being put from all angles here. Cass has no idea where to look. Trizzle taken down by his counter here. Swoom finds another pick, another one. It's Shapeshifter once again. Pretty much last man standing here, hammer out, but he won't be able to stay alive for much longer, dropping low and finally taken down as this death march continues here for the Inglorious Blasters.
Yeah, I mean, this is what we're looking for from the side of Inglorious Blasters, right? We're looking at them being a little bit resilient and being able to hold out against you know, the brawl comp that we've been seeing all game. Beastie Boys managing to get a touch and managing to pump out some ults at the point. It looks like they might just hold this out with 1.5 minutes left on the clock.
Yeah, it looks like they will be able to buy themselves a little bit more time off the clock here. Spawn advantage coming in handy there for the blue squad, but you feel like Inglorious Blasters are going to come in here and just take them down, but now they do switch things up here. So no more Sterling. Farah instead now will be coming in on the Reaper. So how do you feel about this change up towards the end here from Inglorious Blasters?
Big stylistic switch from them here. Less revolving around the angles, more revolving around bashing themselves into the enemy team. And Beastie Boys immediately responding by switching back to this Reinhardt, to a Tracer, and onto a Zen as well to put in a lot of pressure. On Diablo getting picked, but trading for Squishy with that pulse bomb. And they look like they might just be getting into an all-out slugfest on point. Shapeshifter going down to the minefield, and this looks like it may all but be over.
That might be exactly what they need to punch through here. Now they have to scramble into point through a minefield. That's not really ideal in anyone's world, and they will force their way through here. A sharp switch up towards the end of that, back onto the Rhine here against the Reaper from the Beastie Boys, but unfortunately some key picks from the likes of Diablo just, you know, ripping through the Beastie Boys lineup and allowing the Inglorious Blasters to get over the line. 39 seconds on the clock here, Blur. You'll be very, very happy with that as Inglorious Blasters.
Yeah, as an escort map, I think you're just very happy with the completion.
Exactly.
Like there's not that much ability for the team to push back against that. Like it's not like if they finish with time and you finished on nothing. You know, it's not like hybrid where it's a draw or lose situation. In this type of situation, like a completion is extremely, extremely important to making sure you keep yourselves in the game and put yourselves in a position to kind of win. So from the side of the Beastie Boys now, with a comp they're not really responding very well to, they now have to figure out a way to push 3 points and complete the map when they've just had that type of showing. So something that's now looking a little bit promising for the side of Inglorious Blasters, where they've had very little to celebrate up to this point. It looks like they might be in a position where they're able to come back into this game. Might I say, the start of a reverse sweep.
Well, as time will tell, Blur, so hold your horses there. They haven't even won the one map yet, but look at this here. Trizzle on the barrel, he gets the shot. Doesn't quite get the headshot, and now he's under pressure. Going to go over the top here. He's in all kinds of trouble here, but he will be safe for the time being. But Swoom will jump in there. Squishy first to drop for the Beastie Boys here. So Inglorious Blasters, look at how they're set up here, all over the place with Swoom bounding through the center. It's so hard to find the angle here. You can see Shapeshifter kind of stuck, not really able to put his shield up and protect his teammates. Kind of just swinging his hammer around, putting on the pressure here, and Sterling on the high ground, not really easily contested, even by this Widowmaker.
Yeah, I mean, you're kind of seeing the weakness of a Reinhardt here, is that, although very, very, very present in tight choke points and
oh my god, huge pick from Luke, the bomb straight onto Atso, catching them with their pants down here, and now going to look to chase down Sterling, old sparring mate there for Leica Lucas. He kind of cracks open this Inglorious Blasters defense, but they haven't dealt with a few key heroes. Ontiablo, Zoom still up and messing about here. Strizzle under a lot of pressure here. Will he get the shot off? It looks pretty good, but he won't find it just yet, but he's just going to blast him down. No, Condi from across the map with the headshot. The kunai takes him down. Luke drops him as well. The pulse bomb onto Metal Snow. They've managed to hold on here. Zoom is still messing around on the point. Eventually, Shapeshifter will track him down, but Spawn's coming through the charge, going through a nice Suzu onto the team, keeps them healthy here, but Shapeshifter dropping low, 1 HP. The healing is there though, and the Beastie Boys have stabilized quite nicely so far.
Yeah, it's just such a performance out from Ontiablo in that fight. Taking in the 1v3 and coming out on top, like, a little bit of help coming out in the mid fight.
Oh my god.
What a play there.
As you say that, tracking down Squishy and taking him down. Swoom finds Metal Snow, no healing for Shapeshifter now. He's in a lot of trouble, taking damage. Cart's not really anywhere near the point here. Ontiablo smells blood in the water and tracks down Shapeshifter. Inglorious Blasters, they found another gear here, as I said before, and this composition is really meshing well with their playstyle.
Yeah, definitely. And it's just Beastie Boys just not able to adapt to this. They're just getting shut down, cut out of these fights. But getting Sterling off the Pharah seems to have been the first step. It looks like they're a little bit more confident in taking this fight now with the Reaper, so a little bit more frontline damage, a little bit more turtle onto point, and make them come in to see you. That said, lots of ults coming out from the side of Inglorious Blasters here. It could be really dangerous to them.
Both teams though with a lot of ults to work with. A minute and a half in the clock here. There's the mana. The duplicator is hammered down. Doesn't find much, and Trizzle now on the Reaper will get taken down. The tactical visor just mowing down the supports here. The supports helping each other here. This is how it works, guys. There's no off tank anymore. The supports have got to support each other, and they're doing such a good job. They got Atsu puts out of his misery and sends the Beastie Boys back to spawn.
Oh no, you hate to see that from the side of the DPS player, maybe from the side of the Mercy. You love to see it, but just not a nice experience to get glocked out by the Mercy there. Beastie Boys panic stations now. We've got a Roadhog, we've got a Moira. It's all over the place here. What do they do?
Well, you just gotta lean on the picks here. Of course, Hog kind of got nerfed in a recent patch, not able to one-shot quite as easily anymore, but Pondy will drop, so this is an ideal start here for the Beastie Boys. But even if they cap this point, it's a long way to go, and Trizzle dropping won't help their cause here. Swoom, such a hard kill to secure, as just making so much space for his team now. Auntie, that team member who's just using that space so effectively. Luke has now dropped the power driver over the top here. This Roadhog just under so much pressure, kept alive, not taken down, but the mines are going to be out in just a moment here, and they have to get on point as overtime starts to tick down here. Zoom finds two immediately with that minefield pop. Sterling over the top here with the attack fires. He's just going to clean them up here. Inglorious Blasters finally Blur and make it a game out of this by taking map 3.
And I think, if you're looking at them, you're looking at the map set, and you're like, oh, thank goodness we had Dorado up
Oh,
in this list,
jeez.
because
This map had been
just
forfeit. A disaster.
yeah. So just absolutely just stylistically reading the map perfectly, coming out and really putting just all the pressure on the Beastie Boys to adapt, and they just weren't able to. We just didn't see them kind of bring out any type of versatility there, any type of like real kind of adaptation that would have won them that map.
Yeah.
And you maybe want to see them either play something like a more aggressive Winston style comp where you can kind of contest those high grounds, or a Diva style comp where you can just soak up a little bit of that Pharos pressure a little more. Take some damage without actually falling. But this Reinhardt seems to just not be the pick at the moment, and it's just a little bit unfortunate.
Yeah, well, what is our next map here, actually? I think that could be key. It is going to be Esperanza, so another map where you can sow a lot of chaos and kind of make a shapeshifter's life very difficult. But before we get there, guys, we're going to jump into a short break here, allow the players some time to catch their breath after a very exciting Dorado map, and a moment for us as well as we kind of take stock of what's going on here. So it'll just be a minute or two or three, so don't go anywhere. Well, we are back powering up here for the Power Up Cup, our last match of the tournament of the Swiss bracket stage. 5,000 Rand up for grabs for the winner of this, potentially 2,000 Rand with a little asterisk next to that for the losing team. But so far, Blur, it's been the Beastie Boys in the driver's seat all the way up until Dorado, where we finally saw Inglorious Blasters find another angle, or as it turns out, another many angles that they could come at the Beastie Boys from.
Yeah, I mean, we're seeing them adapt to that spam style, that kind of pokey, take lots of angles, surround the enemy team, don't let them block your damage really well. And Beastie Boys just didn't have an answer.
No,
we didn't see a Winston,
totally
we didn't
lost.
see a Diva, we didn't see a Orisa to shut down the Wrecking Ball if you were really leaning into it a little bit. They were just stuck on that Ryan, and it just wasn't working for them. And I mean, it's something that's it's a very strong composition on certain maps, but it is not strong in Dorado.
No.
And it'll be interesting to see how they adapt to Esperanza.
Yeah, that is so. So, how do you feel based on what we saw in Dorado? Do you think that composition is going to have the same kind of effect from the Inglorious Blasters, or do you think that was kind of a consequence of the way that the high grounds work on the Dorado map?
I mean, I think very much Beastie Boys found it is a counter composition in a completely neutral setting. A spam should counter a rush. That type of high angles, getting around the space should ideally counter a team that's playing a Reinhardt Brawley style composition. But it's obviously very map dependent as well. And Dorado, a map that especially leans into that spammy or divey style, depending on what you kind of feel like playing, what you're playing against. But in that situation, really leaning into them being able to take really nice cover, leverage those high grounds, really abuse the positions that Beastie Boys were trying to take. And they did it so well. Esperanza, another one of those maps that with a little bit of potential to kind of exploit some space, kind of get around the enemy team, to push them in a way that they might not be comfortable with on that Reinhardt. But it's also a map that's a little bit more centered. You're playing around that push bot, and that push bot's a matter of millimeters in a lot of situations. So that extra couple of seconds on the push bot, which we would expect from the Beastie Boys style, might be a big difference, and it will force the side of the Inglorious Blasters. I keep getting this name wrong.
It's impossible. It's terrible.
And I don't want to say a bad word.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's something that they're very much going to have to make sure the pacing of their fights and the way they contest that card is absolutely perfect. As we can see,
Go for it.
No, I finished my talking point.
I missed that tweet now, Peach. You're gonna have to throw it up again for me. I wanted to talk about it, but
so did I.
There we go. So Defect, the father of the current leader of competitive Overwatch South Africa, saying Inglorious Blasters subbing in the main squad now. What are your thoughts on that one as we jump into Esperanza?
I mean, they had the main squad for second map as well. It is something that we saw them playing with already, so it's gonna be interesting to see how they adapt on map number 4 now. If they're able to keep that momentum from Dorado, or if it starts to fall apart, it starts to unravel.
Yeah, and they're expressing his tank preference, of course, worth noting that Shapeshifter is his teammate, so you can decide for yourself whether there's any bias there or not, but he believes that Shapeshifter is the best tank, or at least his pink for tank that he would like. So looking at the compositions here as we jump into Esperanza, Blur, anything jumping out at you here? More of the same from the Beastie Boys, more of the same from the Inglorious Blasters.
Yeah, I think the important distinction here is that we're seeing Sterling come out on the Soldier 76 instead of starting on that Pharah. So this pick from Trizzle, this Echo pick, which is clearly designed to kind of pressure out the Pharah a little bit, might not be as effective as he might hope.
Yeah, and that could be a key here. You kind of want to start on the right foot here on this map. If you can get an advantage early, you can kind of ride that through the kind of flux of the push map to a victory here. So it could be a problem if Drizzle can't find value on this hero, but there's more to an Overwatch squad than just one hero, and Squishy, he will find the opening pick onto Atsu's Mercy here. So a bad start for the Inglorious Blasters here, but can they claw it back? They've got the kind of squad that isn't really that reliant on one particular hero, but with being a healer down, they might need to play a little bit more defensively. Condi here, you can see dropping low. He'd love a little bit of healing here, but his Mercy's making her way back from spawn here. Swoon dropping ultra low here. Auntie under pressure as well, and Swoon dropping. That might just be that. The cart or the robot might start making quite a bit of distance here.
I mean, we see a little bit out of frame. Shapeshifter going on an absolute adventure to chase down Sterling as well. They're not letting them have any space in the early stage, and you can see immediately they're forcing their fight on the robot. They're making it really, really difficult for the side of Inglorious Blasters to get around them. And I mean, if you're the side of Beastie Boys, that's exactly what you want to do. Just look how much pressure Zoom is under in the early stage of this fight.
Yeah, really, really getting forced into an uncomfortable spot here. Auntie is struggling to find an angle here, but now the power driver goes in. Sterling under pressure here, getting damage boosted by Atsu, but not really in a great angle there. He was waiting for the cooldown, I guess. Now on the high ground, relocate forced out of the tracer here. A lot of damage being put in here, but no kills forthcoming for the Inglorious Blasters. The Beastie Boys kind of weathering the storm here very effectively, but there we go, another power driver now with the minefields as well. Luke will be the first to drop. Robot now walking or running, taking a little jog in the other direction, or not as the case may be. A shapeshifter, last man standing, as he so often is with this composition, but that's what Inglorious Blasters needs. They kind of fired back very effectively there.
Yeah, really, really effective ult from Zoom there, and really effective ult usage from the team in general there. It was only the one ultimate used, and they're going to have 3 online at least for this fight. From the side of the Beastie Boys, however, you've got that Molten Core, big space now ultimate. You have that Coalescence, big sustain and damage ultimate. So, you know, you're going to see them potentially be able to push in here quite aggressively. It'll be interesting to see how this fight starts to unfold.
Yeah, looking at Shapeshifter, he might have a really hard time getting... Oh, look at that. Great work from Zwoom and on Diablo, hooking up to take down Squishy on the support. Shapeshifter sort of waddling his way towards the backline there, but kind of out of position. No teammates to really help him here. Is kind of falling apart here. The chaos being sown by the Inglorious Blasters, making it so impossible. Diablo with a huge pulse bomb straight into the mix there, blending the whole blue squad into a mulch that will reform and spawn.
Yeah, I mean, and you see from that, Inglorious Blasters now take the lead, and that'll put them in a position to kind of take
and they get that forward cap.
Oh. That's going to be so impactful for them. 5 ults online for the side of Beastie Boys here, but they have to start using them. Otherwise, they're going to start losing value simply because they're not keeping that ult generation up. So it'll be interesting to see how they approach this fight. But the attack is already coming out.
Techvisor completely countering the duplicate there from Trizzle. So the Echo now, without the ultimate, under pressure here in the sky. Sterling wants to take her out, won't do so just yet, but meanwhile on the ranch, Squishy getting taken down by Swoon once again. What a terrifying player to play against here. Always just finding the backline, finding the pick. Shapeshifters like, cheers boys, I'm out of here, and by out of here I mean in here, and then out of here back to spawn the quick way as the Inglorious Blasters. Now the rhythm of this match has totally shifted on its head here. Inglorious Blasters now with the momentum behind them, and the Beastie Boys having to come up with a solution.
Yeah, I mean, and we're seeing them struggle again. You know, it took Inglorious Blasters 2 fights, and then they were back in control again. And Beastie Boys, it just seems unsure of how to use anything here. They've been sitting on these ultimates, and they just don't know exactly where they should be applying them. And honestly, Inglorious Blasters just pulling them apart right now at the seams. It's just a complete breakdown, even with a big ultimate commitment in this fight.
Yeah, totally. You can see Shapeshifter now onto the Junker Queen. You mentioned how that was kind of a counter to the ball composition center on the ball, but you kind of need to know how to make that work. It's not the kind of hard counter that you can just be like, oh, you pick the hero and then it kind of all works itself out. You kind of need to be comfortable on the hero, and the team needs to be comfortable playing around it. So, yeah, it's kind of hard here. You can see Shapeshifter forward, isolated, and might get taken down here, but the pulse, or the beat, sorry, will keep the team healthy here. Wallace has been subbed in, by the way, in case you had noticed that. Trizzle dropping now, the Echo not really finding value here. 4.5 minutes left on the clock here, but Inglorious Blasters in total control for the time being here. They're looking to push forward. Yes, Sterling getting aggressive, but does get taken down. But Auntie in the backline wreaking havoc. Wallace down, Shapeshifter down, Auntie taken down, Trizzle taken right back up here with the Resurrection, Pulse Bomb, or rather Tactical Visor at the ready here. And the car just still moving here, Blair. This is a bit of a disaster for the Beastie Boys.
Yeah, it's just you can't be in this situation if you're them. Like they just have no control over this map anymore, and like they just cannot take these team fights. They're just never in a position that you think they're favored. Except now, maybe they're coming in. They've taken out the soldier, they've taken out that mercy, but they're trading 1-for-1 picks, and one team wants to play all spread out, so maybe being alone doesn't suit them a little bit better.
You can see that immediately playing out there. You're kind of okay as Inglorious is getting picked off because you're kind of playing a very isolated style anyway. So you can see the pressure there under. How many minefields have we seen some Zoom just in this extended team fight here? At least 2 is now Luke's going to try his best to build up towards a minefield of his own here, but you can tell this dude does not play nearly as much ball as Zoom does because he's playing ball like I do, kind of banging his head against every surface on the map here. Also, that was not Luke, that was Trizzle. Yeah, fortunately for them, they now have gotten some picks. They're Sterling under pressure here once again from Shaftus, this Junker Queen, and they have flipped the point now, Blur, but you've got to feel like there's a long way to go before they're anywhere close to even on this map.
And considering how many ults they had to use to get into that fight, like, it's just going to be a pushback from the side of Inglorious Blasters here, and it's going to be whether they can win the neutral. And I don't know if they can win the neutral in this composition. I don't know if they have that comfort. Yeah,
it's going to be rough here. They do now have the Lucio ultimate here coming in, do the Beasty Boys. Not really anything else to work with for the time being. Glorious Blasters working up to that pulse bomb. We've seen what On Diablo can do with that. And here we go, Pile Driver once again, hitting pay dirt here. Trizzle first to drop, not for the first time this match, as it seems like the Echo not really working out. But they are finding picks now on the side of the Beasty Boys. 2 quick picks onto Auntie and Atsu might make it hard for them to find an angle here. Zoom still being a nuisance here, but the cart is moving forward here. The robot, they are going to cap that forward spawn now, so that's a very, very important first step towards working their way back into this one for the Beastie Boys.
Still though, not a lot of ultimates online for them, the closest being like Luke's Molten Core again, and 3 coming online immediately. Another one of those minefields that we've been talking about. It's just so quick to build them into this highly grouped composition. A couple of slams and you have it, and losing your Moiri immediately there, not going to help the case of the Beastie Boys at all.
Yeah, it seems so strong on this map as well. You want to play around the point, and the minefield just makes it so hard for the whole squad to find their position there. This is also going to make it quite hard. The Tactical Visor mowing down the blue squad here, and that's going to allow the Inglorious Blasters to get set up. Speaking of Blasters, the Glock out once again, and another pick. See, you gotta love it.
Yeah, and I think if you're Beastie Boys there, getting the Tac Visor out in that fight is something that you're quite happy about. Coming into this fight would be quite inopportune for them, and they at least now aren't at a complete ultimate disadvantage with their Molten Core and their Coalescence online and their Rampage soon to join.
Ooh, here comes the Kitsune Rush though, over the top. Shapeshifter will find their pick, but Luke has already dropped here. Coalescence though, doing so much damage, but not nearly enough to find the pick. Under pressure here is Squishy on the Moira. Cart is kind of fiddling around the middle here. Zoom works his way back towards it on the ball. Just look at how much of a nuisance he's being all by himself. There's no teammates on the screen right now, and he gets the pick onto Wallace here. The Lucio taken down by Sterling, and Zoom is such a monster on the ball here, just allowing his team to have the run of the map here. Dropping low, might get taken down, is getting healed up, but under a lot of pressure. The Pile Driver putting out, but look at that, with the adaptive shields, he's just going to mosey on out of there, and we're back in short order, I'm sure. Trizzle taken. Kandi, a DPS master in his own right here on the Kiriko, putting the pressure on. Now they're going to move forward. Whoops, not what he wanted to do there. I don't think Swoom on the high ground there, but there we go. The pulse bomb from On Diablo onto Shapeshifter. 12 seconds left here on map 4. Inglorious Blasters looking to work their way towards that reverse sweep. As we mentioned earlier, the Molten Core does come out here. The robot back and forth, undecisive, but the Inglorious Blasters in the driver's seat here with the Tac Visor from Sterling, putting the pressure on. No picks just yet. Trizzle doing a good job of keeping the pressure down, but Zoom just finding pick after pick after pick. All the pressure here onto the core of the Beastie Boys. Shapeshifter now going to try and make something happen on the ball, but the from Squishy gets pounded down there by the rockets from Sterling. Last man standing once again from Shapeshifter, but Sterling will make short work of the enemy ball, and Inglorious Blasters Blur will take us to a map 5.
And that's what we wanted from this, right? We wanted to see the best of South African Overwatch. an absolute slugfest going back and forth between these two teams. But Inglorious Blast is really, really finding their pace here. Like, they're just absolutely in control at the moment. And going onto a control map, a deciding map. Oh, that's so disgusting.
Oh my god, dude, that is rough. In Overwatch 2, you don't get as many huge multi-kills like that with fewer players on the teams, and the kind of compositions tend to be a lot less clumped than they were in Overwatch 1. At least that's how it feels sometimes. But Auntie finding the spot there, but you've got to feel like that's a team effort, right? They kind of got corralled in there by the angles and the way that Swoom is playing. They kind of got forced into this corner, and Auntie swoops in, throws the pulse bomb down, and reduces them all to a fine red mist. So Inglorious Blasters, I mean, all of a sudden looking totally unassailable here.
But, that's a big but, we go to Lijiang Tower for our last game.
Yeah.
A map that we've seen Reinhardt be devastating on. We've seen him be devastating on Night Market. We've seen him be devastating on Control Center. Garden's probably his weakest of the three, but still, if you can get onto that point and bunker down, they're going to have such a hard time breaking that down. So, you know, we're seeing a stylistic battle here, a battle of spam versus rush. We're seeing, you know, a team that wants to poke and surround versus a team that wants to run teams down. So, you know, it's definitely, there's opportunity here for them. There's, you know, there's a situation where this ends up being a reverse sweep that just, you know, reverses a little bit too far. Like, they just don't have that's you know, reverses straight off the side of the map. It's just not gonna stick if they don't manage to get around Beasty Boys properly here. So it'll be very, very interesting to see how these teams stylistically match up for this last map.
I don't know, Blair. My sense is that they found their composition here. They found how they're going to win this map on the side of Inglorious Blasters, and that's putting Zoom on that ball, because it seems like if he's on the ball, Auntie can obviously be on the tracer and will do work. We know he will, but it allows Aquatic as well, or Sterling. Sorry, I keep calling him Aquatic. He used to be called Aquatic. He changed his name.
Classic.
Okay, sorry. Okay, I'm using my ingrained knowledge from years of playing this damn game in this community. So, sorry, Sterling, he can kind of play whatever he wants. He can flex onto the Pharah and put damage from the sky, or he can play on the soldier with Atsu on his back. So it's opening up so much for the Inglorious Blasters here. We saw how uncomfortable they looked when they were playing around the Rhine, and even to a certain extent the Orisa. But once Zoom is able to open things up with the Wrecking Ball, it's just completely opened this team up to a world of possibilities. And I think maps aside, it seems like Inglorious Blasters have found a composition that is just totally dismantling how the Beastie Boys wants to run their composition.
Yeah, but I mean, again, we're looking at a map that historically we've seen Ryan be devastating. Historically, we've seen Ryan have a lot of value, a lot of purchase. And compositional comfort aside, this is going to be something that's really, really interesting to see match up here.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we will be starting here now on Gardens on Lijiang Tower midday. It's so weird seeing different types of days. Shapeshifter.
Don't like this one.
Just reiterate. Yeah, I mean, I don't like anything different because I'm a curmudgeon like that. But it is going to be in the daytime. We're going to have to squint here, or dawn or dusk or whatever time of day this is. But looking at the compositions here, Blur, very, very interesting. We do see Nine now in here, the super sub for the last map, replacing his former teammate in Trizzle. Kind of Trizzle felt a little bit outclassed in that match on the Echo, it has to be said. But Inglorious Blasters, we said it before, if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
I think this is also just them leaning on something that they can get a little bit closer in. They can get a little bit impactful in the close range. And Nine historically very, very strong on this Reaper, so we're going to see him being quite valuable to the team here, I'm sure.
Barrier here, finding an angle. Sterling just pumping down range here into the core. Nice patient play though from the Beastie Boys. They're not going to show themselves or make an aggression until the point opens up or they find some picks or angles. And now they're going to move forward here, but look at the boop. Going to force the Rhine a little bit away from his team. You can see Shapeshifter having a little bit of a tough time there on the front, under pressure. Sterling pumps the damage in with the damage boost from Atsu. Look at Swoop here having a dream time here on the ball, going round and round in circles here. Every hit charging more and more resulting, but he does get taken down. That is the difference the Reaper makes. So Nyan will force Swoop, the main man, back towards spawn, and that's going to allow the Beastie Boys to get that first cap. And this is what we were talking about, Blur. If they can get set up nicely here, it's going to be pretty hard to crack them open.
Yeah, and I think that's the kind of key part that they're looking for here. Like they've taken the time-honored tradition of ignoring the Pharah to counter the Pharah, and maybe they should be paying more attention to her as she gets early picks in this fight.
I think you mean the time-honored tradition of losing to the Pharah Blur, as far as I can remember in South African Overwatch. I heard a pulse bomb go down, did get a stick, and it does take down Shapeshifter. So we said they'd get nicely set up, and they immediately get cracked open like an egg here.
Yeah, and I think if you're Beastie Boys here, you maybe wanted to last a little bit longer on point before the first flip comes in, because re-breaching this point into ultimates now going to be so difficult, especially this barrage, which can come out that gap of that bridge, and that minefield, which can stop them even getting to point in the first place.
Yeah, this could be really tough ingress here for the Beastie Boys. Area denial, minefield coming out here for Zoom once again under pressure. They did a good job of weathering this one. Did the Beastie Boys here. They did have to commit the sound barrier though. Zoom dropping low, but he knows where the health packs are on this map. He's pretty good at the game. Sterling finds that opening pick onto Shapeshifter. You mentioned the barrage, and it does find the damage, and you can see how that opens things up. It's all squishies all day, and Diablo, he's going to have a field day here in the Power-Up Cup, cleaning things up. Zoom with a nice double, rolling over the Beastie Boys squad, and then Glorious Blasters. I told you, Blur. I told you, it's looking ominous, man.
Oh, and we're actually seeing an adaptation coming out now from the side of Beastie Boys. They've decided Winston is the pick. They've decided they're going to try diving a little bit. It's taken them 3 maps, but here we are.
And look how it's going so far. A lot of pressure here. Pulse bomb not on the mark, at least not for the moment. Like a Luke under pressure here, but not taken down just yet. But Sterling, he finds Squishy. He's got so much space to work with. How could anybody look at him when you've got to look at the ball? You've got to look at the tracer. Sterling's just having a field day out in the sky here. Suzu going down from Condi. The Kiriko able to keep up with the aggression, move all around the map here. Really, such a perfect hero to have when you're playing a disparate comp like this. Is Rocket Barrage almost at the ready here, Blur. This is pretty disastrous for the Beastie Boys.
Yeah, the side of the Beastie Boys getting kind of locked up in their spawn now, and if they get a touch, you know, it's not even if they're able to contest. If they get a touch here, will they be able to bring this back? And it doesn't look like it. Shapeshifter versus the world, and a hero we're not traditionally knowing him for, you know?
Oh man, Diablo skeet shooting there, taking down Shapeshifter as he pops out of the mech. Won't even get killed by self-deletion there, as they're just totally untouchable here, the Inglorious Blasters. They found their rhythm here, and the Beastie Boys are floundering.
And it goes from bad to worse from the Beastie Boys. We see them coming out now. You know, you'd expect that they'd be most confident playing on Control Center, the more closed up indoors map. But here we are on Night Market. You know, you can get onto point, you can pressure from point, but it's one of those very neutral matchups. Is do you play it better than them?
Shapeshifter, man.
They just look so unsure.
Back and forth. He's like, I don't know, guys. I don't know what to do.
Oh, we're leaning into it.
Okay.
We've decided, you know what? We see your game, we play it too. And it'll be interesting to see how this pans out.
Yeah, this feels like a bad idea, right? When you've been losing to a team player comp for the last 3 maps, and all of a sudden you're like, okay, let's give it a whirl. But Sterling immediately fights the pick on Tinyan. You'd rather feel like you'd love to have Trizzle back in here, because we know how he can perform on the Tracer here. Luke, not able to find out, he does eventually track him down. We know Luke is a monster on the Farrier here, under pressure, getting the shots in the sky. Can't track down Aquatic, not quite just yet, but he's got a mercy on his back, so he can take a few shots here. 9 wins the duel with the Tracer on the other side, so maybe this is the key, Blur. Get the trades going, get the chaos, meet chaos with chaos here. The Beastie Boys will grab this first cap.
Wow, that is not what I expected out of this round. And honestly, you know, it's working for them. Like Luke doing a lot of damage in that fight, and if not outright killing Sterling, putting him under a lot of pressure, which we haven't seen so much from him in the first half of this game so far.
Yeah, he's had a very quiet series on the Torbjorn, at least for the second half of the series. As Sterling under pressure here now, taking the duel. He's manning up against Leica Luke here, but Luke is just as much of a monster on Farah as Sterling has ever been, so this could be a very fascinating matchup to watch as we watch the pendulum swing. Sterling, though, he finds that pick, but Nyan will take down Auntie. Shapeshifter will take down Condi, so Beastie Boy sitting pretty here. The point had flipped in the meanwhile, but it's an absolute good all-out brawl. Minefield on the point here. Sterling under pressure. Needs to be careful not to get booped off the map here. Oh, there we go. There's one. No TP forthcoming here for Squishy. And then Inglorious Blasters will stand firm here on 34%.
And I think, you see like Luke coming in on the Pharah, and historically it's just this pick that, anyone that's played against him on Eden or ATK knows it's a scary, scary hero to see him on. But Sterling no slash, and Sterling knowing what he wants to be doing here. And what an ult coming in the early stage. That'll open up the fight immediately for them.
I mean, if you could pick 2 players in South Africa on any team to eliminate first in a team fight, it would be on Diablo and Swoom, and Luke that's the picks for the Beastie Boys. Allow them to make a quick retake here, 20% to 60%. Everything to play for here, Blur.
And the ults are identical. A Valkyrie, a Kitsune Rush, a Pulse Bomb being used, but not finding anything from the side of Diablo, and he immediately goes down in this fight. That's a very, very big early pick that should give Beastie Boys a little bit of purchase in this fight.
Yeah, not for the first time. They're going to go for the res here. Can they track the... Yes, they can. Yan has it covered. Atsu won't be able to bring Auntie back into the mixer. Condi now under pressure. Sterling on the ground, just trying to pressure Luke back, trying to take that trade, keep the Pharah distracted. But so far, the Beastie Boys have been doing a pretty good job of finding the targets. They need to Swoom dropping low. Are they going to be able to chase him down, take him down? Luke wins the duel in the sky. Once again, the dogfight going the way of the Beastie Boys DPS as they look to clean things up. Now Atsu under pressure, has to get back here. Will get taken down, tracked down by Shapeshifter. It's looking pretty dire all of a sudden for the Inglorious Blasters. Maybe the comp is OP, blah.
I mean, it is a strong comp right now. We are seeing, since his buffs, Wrecking Ball seeing a lot more value. Reduction on the pile driver and on the and he got shield HP, which means he regenerates health, so he's more active in the fights. And I mean, we're seeing this is just an all-out. These Wrecking Balls are just all over the place, putting so much pressure in these fights, and they're doing so much. And these Pharahs also doing so much.
Oh, there we go. Aiden now on the point. Swoom with the minefield, making it hard. But look how low he's dropping. Can they get the track down? But you can see how they're being zoned out by the mines. Auntie finds Wallace. That might just be key. He finds Shapeshifter as well. Inglorious Blasters, they're not done just yet. Yeah, I said it. Whatever. Shut up. Auntie Leon says, I've had enough with this team fight, and will end himself. The cleanup will be forthcoming. And 64 to 99, Blur. This could be the last fight of the Power Up Cup.
That's, you've got this Pulse Bomb on line for Neon, you've got the Rocket Barrage on line for Leica Luke, and such impactful ultimates and from such impactful players. We really, really want to see that coming in and just opening up this fight. Take it to a third point. Let's get this to the third point of Lijiang Tower.
Let's get it indeed. Go all the way. Of course, reverse sweep on the line here. 5,000 Rand on the line here. Bragging rights, champions, and look at that, support's dropping on both sides. There we go. Sterling, he finds a pick onto Shapeshifter. That might be key, but Luke, he's still in the sky. He's got the ultimate going. He can't find the target.
Oh no!
He gets taken down. Inglorious Blasters in control of the team fight. 99. Inglorious Blasters will be the champion of the Power Up Cup.
Wow, that is incredible. That was a phenomenal game of Overwatch, and 2 teams just showing, what it takes to compete at the top level of South African Overwatch, and what a performance by these players. Yeah, Dayson's last reverse sweep 0 on Diablo is certainly right with that one. And I think that's the first reverse sweep of the Power Up Cup. What an absolute phenomenal game. What a phenomenal game of Overwatch.
Yeah, well, you couldn't ask for anything better to end the first tournament of 2023 for South African Overwatch. Stellar play from both teams. Beastie Boys right at the end finding the composition that works, and it turns out you just run it right back at them, and it almost worked. You almost feel like if they'd been running that a little bit earlier, they might have been able to kind of pull something back in Esperanza or Dorado even. So at the end of it, though, it is about adaptation, and it is about the skill of the players involved. And today, the Inglorious Blasters found their composition and ran it to perfection.
Yeah, I mean, it's just one of those things. They understood the composition, they understood the maps, they understood how to apply it there. And, although you have these excellent players on the side of Beastie Boys, it felt like a collision of old versus new. These the old guys that came in, first couple of maps, they looked amazing on the composition they know, they love. on maps they know and love. And then the last 3 maps, the new bloods came in and just absolutely showed them that there's a lot of life in the scene still. It's just absolutely incredible play.
Yeah, absolutely. So guys, that is going to be that for the Power Up Cup. There might be a couple of matches tomorrow. I'm sure there will be.
Yeah, I believe they are.
But in terms of, they won't be streamed, of course, but in terms of the tippy top, in terms of first place, we can now confirm that it will be the Inglorious Blasters taking down, or taking home, the 5,000 Rand grand prize. Second place still up for grabs here. We will obviously confirm that on social media in terms of who gets second and who gets third. But at the end of the day, it's been a stellar tournament of Overwatch, Blur.
Yeah, it's absolutely fantastic, and we're seeing a lot of teams come out of the woodworks. A lot of teams of old players, a lot of teams of new players, and you know, the top end of this table looks very, very packed. There's a lot of 3-1 teams in here, including Beasty Boys today, who were able to take Inglorious Blasters to a 5-map series. So, you know, there's a lot of potential for very exciting tournaments coming up in the near future, and I'm here for it.
Well, you know I will be as well. So that's going to be that for the Power Up Cup, guys. If you'd like to get or keep up to date with everything that's happening in South African Overwatch, you can follow at ZA Overwatch. God, I hope that's true. I haven't done this in so long. ZA Overwatch on Twitter. That's where you will be able to keep up with everything, whether it's tournaments like this, competitive tournaments, or more park-style tournaments, the likes of the Pride Cup, etc. There will be tournaments, competitive tournaments happening throughout the year, as I understand it. So if you do want to get involved and you don't have a team, join the Discord server, which is being linked in chat, I presume, at some point. And that's where you can get involved with the community if you'd like to. My name has been Sun Phoenix, of course, at Sun Phoenix on Twitter, SUNPHEONYX. I tweet inane nonsense, usually not related to Overwatch. And what about you, Blur? Where can we find you on the internet?
Yeah, I've been Blur. I'm Blur_RSA on Twitter. I tweet very rarely, and if I do, it's usually sarcastic, so have fun.
Yeah, flaming his fellow community members as well. He loves to get involved. And of course, the Peach Jedi, our wonderful producer this evening, as he is on most evenings. If you like anything you're seeing on the stream right now, be it the way the production is run, the observing, the things, you know, the things that like boxes and stuff. The name is eluding
Overlay.
me. Overlays, there we go. If you like any of that stuff, he's the man to talk to about that. He handles all that, and he does and has done an amazing job as usual. So guys, please give the Peach Jedi on Twitter a follow. He has a Twitch that I'm sure he's never using. He's got a YouTube channel that I'm sure he's never using. He said, okay, Twitch stream happening in 2 weeks, guys, so mark that on your calendar. And that's going to be that, guys. Once again, just to remind you, if you saw this, you loved it, and you want to get involved, please join the Cows server. And otherwise, have a lovely weekend and enjoy sitting in the dark for many periods of time.